¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Welcome. How's it going, Cosmic Seeking? Michael Haster. Welcome, everybody. I was feeling blue and then to be happy. Yeah, I saw the Prince thing. I just can't play it here. -2 degrees. Sheesh. Yikes. Here, it is a smooth 44 degrees. Although it's probably, well, Fahrenheit, just to be clear. It's probably going to drop in the next couple of days, starting tomorrow. So we'll see how cold it gets. While it may be very, very, very small, it is possible that we might see snow during Christmas. It's not 100%, but it is possible. Also, folks, really quickly, a huge thank you to Left Flank Vets for coming in to yesterday. Wonderful, wonderful folks. Guys, again, if you haven't done so, make sure you go check out twitch.tv/Left Flank Vets and follow them on the Twitter as well. Marcus of Left Flank Vets. Good peeps. We have now snow here. Yeah, I bet. With -2, -7. Yeah, I could see that. So huge shout out to them. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Apparently, some stuff that's been making the rounds that was just posted. We'll start with that because it's kind of, I don't want to say not news, but it's not like, we don't know yet until tomorrow, I guess. Hold on. Sorry, I have to adjust that. We don't know until tomorrow. Let's take a look. Today, hopefully, we'll get through all of the headlines before and make it to 7 p.m. We'll see. Apparently, this was a thing on Truth Social. Unironically, something that the ex-president of the United States posted. Also, the current, also a current candidate as well. Just making sure. Major announcement tomorrow.
America needs a superhero.
Yes. This is literally the president of the United States. Yeah. This is what we're dealing with, folks. I mean, like, what major announcement what major announcement could he possibly be setting the stage for, right? Like, that he's going to rescind his candidacy? I mean, that would be What else? Maybe we could start taking bets on that. Trump Spider-Man? Yeah. A vice president choice. Actually, that's not a bad guess. That's not a bad guess at all. He might actually announce his vice president pick. I mean, not that it really matters, because like whoever it's gonna be isn't really gonna change the dynamic as much unless it's someone like maybe Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis wouldn't be his vice president. That would be very weird. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Hello, my GOP brother. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep deleting that every time you see it. Every time you say it. It would be better if he shut the hell up and went away forever. Yeah, but he's running for president, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I'm not yours or any GOP's brother. Fuck out of here with that shit. Anyways, yeah, I don't know what the major announcement is, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow. Seriously, probably Trump applies for U.S. House Speaker and President at the same time. No way. Can that actually be like a thing? You know, because from what I understand, technically, the Speaker of the House doesn't have to be a member of Congress. Is that correct? No, wait, hold on. Who can be Speaker? Before I start talking shit. Oh. Well, that's a bit of a loophole. So it is true. The Constitution technically does not require the Speaker to be an incumbent member of the House of Representatives, although every Speaker thus far has been. The Speaker is the second in the U.S. Presidential line of succession. Can you imagine that? What? Okay. So one of the most like powerful people in the very close line of succession can just be almost anybody? That's wild. Perhaps he's got a new pillow. No, I think it's more than that. That is wild. No, I don't think he's gonna make a bid for speakership. That's not. I don't think so. No, I don't think he's going to ask for the speakership. That would be wild. I mean, it would make sense if he announced his vice president pick. That's what would make sense. Vice President Marjorie Taylor Greene. No, I don't think she's. I don't think she's gonna be up for vice president pick as well. I don't think so. I don't believe so. Who knows? Who knows? I guess tomorrow we'll find out what this major announcement is. No, I don't want a Wells Fargo. Stop it. Close this ad. Okay. Maybe let's just start with this one. It's gonna be Ye? No.
Please clap.
Ye's running for Ye's running his own candidate, his own campaign. whatever that entails. A notorious Trump judge just fired the first shot against birth control. Yep. Here we go, folks. Matthew I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. A Trump appointee to a federal court. Elections have consequences, folks. Elections have consequences. To a federal court in Texas, spent much of his career trying to interfere with other people's sexuality. A former lawyer at a religious conservative litigation shop, dude denounced in a 2015 article a so-called, quote, the so-called sexual revolution that began in the 60s and 70s, which sought public affirmation of the lie that the human person is an autonomous blob of silly putty, unconstrained by nature, biology, and that marriage, sexuality, gender identity, and even the unborn child must yield to the erotic desires of liberated adults. What? Yeah. He sure picks the best people, huh? Interesting. What quote? So in retrospect, it's unsurprising that dude would be the first federal judge to embrace a challenge to the federal right to birth control after the Supreme Court's June decision eliminating the right to ban the right to an abortion. Last week, dude issued an opinion in Deanda versus Becerra that attacks Title X, a federal program that offers grants to healthcare providers that fund voluntary and confidential family planning service to patients. Federal law requires that Title X program to include services for adolescents. Yeah. Cool. True God-fearing Americans? Not really. The reality is like this is a secular nation. Why are you so worried about Trump in America if the current U.S. political establishment is even more fascist? Not really. Not even by a chance. Like, what world are you living in? What world are you living in that you cannot possibly see the Republican Party and be like, yeah, dude, cool. That's not a problem. What delusional world are you living in? Are you okay? The judge was describing conservatives. True. How's it going, Redmond? Oh yeah, dude. Why are you so worried about Trump, even though he's like been engaging in like insurrectionary behavior? Yeah, dude. Why should we worry about the Republican Party when they're actively engaging in in anti-democratic behavior? I live in the world of... I don't know what the fuck that is. You're delusional. Sorry. People at True Social, including Michael Flynn, speculating that Trump's big announcement will be that he wants to be the Speaker of the House. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if he... I mean, it is Trump. He might actually be that, off base. He might actually be that ridiculous, but I don't think so. I just don't think so. I don't think that he's going to announce a bid for speakership while trying to also mount a campaign for president? What? That doesn't make sense. Can't beat 45 trying to start an insurrection. True. Let me go back. Let me take a little trip down my history from yesterday. Can we find it, folks? No, I don't want to remove this site. I want to go to it. Hey. Home of Twitter? No. Oh, good lord. Oh, this is not what I'm looking for. Give me 1 second, chat. Where are we? Yesterday, December 13th. Scroll through. I mean, maybe? Is this it? No. Is this it? No. Oh, wait. Hold on. Oh man, I love sometimes my ability to have good photographic memory. You might want to search for that. The US's greatest human violators. Okay, whatever, dude. Yeah, I understand that there's enormous problems with the United States. But this is completely a different story than what we're talking about now with the Republican Party. Okay? Like to say that like, oh yeah, dude, Trump is literally the least of your problems. Yeah, why are you so worried about Trump? Here, instead, why don't we just listen? This is the Republican Party. Why don't we just listen?
Conservative. I come to Washington. I swear in on January 3rd. I get accused of giving insurrection tours, which I thought was hilarious because I couldn't even find the bathroom in the Capitol. True story. Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something, if Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won.
Yeah, and like the most disturbing part is not only that, like, let's take a second. Let's take a second here. This is a sitting member of Congress, okay? Sitting member of the Republican Party, a staunch Trump supporter as well. And two, the cheers from the crowd. And the clapping.
Not to mention, it would have been armed.
Yeah, so not to mention, like, lol, you know, if we, Wink, actually decided to do an insurrection, yeah, like, we would have done it proper with, you know, guns. And we would have won. I'd be more worried of the corporatic state that you have in there in America. Not as much as I'm worried about fascists, dude. Like, that never, like, are you actually interested in defeating, like, authoritarianism? Like, the one that's actually knocking on the door right now? Or is this just, like, some performative thing that, that you've adopted? Right, she was joking, right? They're just jokes, guys. They're just, you don't understand sarcasm. They're just jokes, dude. Until they're not. You have there in America. Wait, what country do you live in? Hold on, 1 second. What? Do you live here? Do you live here in America?
See, that's the whole joke, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
They say
joke.
that whole thing was planned, and I'm like, are you kidding me? A bunch of conservatives, Second Amendment supporters went in the Capitol without guns, and they think that we organized that? I don't think so.
Yeah, so like the idea is like, oh yeah, like Second Amendment folks would never make an insurrection this way. They would actually do it proper. But like, okay, that's worse. You do get how that's worse, right? You do get how that's actually worse. Anyways, this is an active sitting member of Congress of the Republican Party. Yeah, no, fuck out of here with that shit. Honestly, like, you know, oh, I'm one of your, okay, you don't live here, dude. Okay? Yeah, I get it. You don't think that I've mentioned in numerous times about like how effed up like America has been in the past to the global south? Yeah. Yeah. We do talk about that. Okay? And then you're talking about like how we have to worry about corporatism when we've got literal fucking fascists talking about an armed insurrection and about like teehee if it was for real, but like it's not. But even if it was for real, then we would have done it proper. Like if you're actually interested in like, if you're actually interested in defeating like fascism and things like that, that's not the way. Okay, that is not the way. Yeah, many a true word is spoken in jest. She's not kidding. She's not kidding. The only thing she regrets is that there wasn't more guns, because as I was trying to say, A, there was weapons there were guns, and B, there was multiple instances of certain groups that were stashing caches of weapons around the place in neighboring states. So yeah. Also, one of these groups, the Oath Keepers, literally were found guilty of sedition. These are conservatives. These are far-right extremists. If that doesn't ring any alarm bells, you're doing a disservice. You're doing a disservice. Okay? Sitting member of Congress actively saying like, teehee, if it wasn't, you know, how could it have been us? We would have done it proper. I'd be more worried about the corporocratic state. Yeah, whatever, dude. Anywho. Republicans and conservatives continue to attempt to stranglehold effectively bodily autonomy. Last week, a dude whose name I cannot pronounce issued an opinion on Dienda versus Becerra that attacks Title X, a federal program that offers grants to health providers that fund voluntary and confidential family planning service to patients. Federal law requires the Title X program to include services for adolescent. Read and Rap, how's it going? The plaintiff in Dienda, a father who says he's raising each of his daughters in accordance with Christian teaching of matters of sexuality. Ah, yes. Cool, dude. That's not creepy, which requires unmarried children to practice abstinence and refrain from sexual intercourse until marriage. He claims that the program must cease all grants to health providers who do not require patients under 18 to obtain parental consent before receiving Title X funded medical care. The fundamental argument that's being said here is that people like him do not believe in the idea of information and proper sex education for self-reporting reasons. Yeah. For self-reporting reasons, conservatives are actively pushing, not just in rhetoric, but through the courts are actively pushing to make sure that adolescents do not have the tools and education because of self-reporting reasons. Because conservatives, when they talk about like things like this, that is a massive self-report, by the way. That you want to take away funding, or you want to make sure that adolescents don't get, you know, the access that they need, the sex ed education, the sex ed that they need. Why is that? That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. I'm tired of these people being called conservative because what they all seem to be advocating for is radical change and social upheaval. Conservatives advocate for the status quo and social stability. Not really. It's, well, I understand that it's like a misnomer, maybe. It's kind of important that, as you know, it's important for fascistic thought to hold a whole bunch of contradicting opinions and ideology. The entire thing is incoherent, up to and including the name. So, yeah, maybe that might help shed some light on that. Like from head to toe, like the entire thing requires so much. It requires the ability to hold so many contradictory things. It's incoherent from beginning to end, but nonetheless, that's what the label and name that is being used for colloquial, reasons. Radical change backwards is still radical change. Yep, that's an excellent point. Yes. He claims that programs must cease all grants to healthcare providers who do not require patients under 18 to obtain parental consent before leaving Title X funded medical care. Cool. This is not a new argument, and numerous courts have rejected similar challenges to publicly funded family planning programs, in part because at the end the plaintiff's legal argument would undermine the minor's right to privacy, which they don't actually believe in, which the Supreme Court has long held to include a right to contraception. But Dude isn't like most other judges. In his brief time on the bench, Trump appointed Dude in 2019. He has shown an extraordinary willingness to interpret the law creatively to benefit right-wing causes. Of course. Yeah, no shit. This behavior is enabled, moreover, by the procedural rules that frequently enable federal plaintiffs in Texas to choose which judges will hear the case. 95% of civil cases filed in Amarillo, Texas federal courthouse are automatically assigned to Dude. So litigants who want their case to be decided by a judge with a history as a Christian right activist with a demonstrated penchant for interpreting the law flexibly to benefit his ideological allies can all but ensure that outcome by bringing their lawsuit to Amarillo. Amazing. Like that's some democracy at work right here. That is totally not a broken system where you can ensure and guide and nudge litigation so that you can land the case to the judge who will be sympathetic. Like, then what's the point of the judicial system if that's how it's going to be? Like, that's how it's set up in Texas. That is so messed up and so broken. How is that a judicial system? It's not. If you can make it so that you can nudge and find your judge, then there's really no point, right? there's really no point. If you can finagle your way to find the judge that is sympathetic to you, that's not a justice system. That is not a judiciary that is functional. It is broken. Yeah, but they don't care. They don't care, Alio. It's part of the thing, right? Conservatives don't care because fundamentally they are incompatible with democracy. They don't care about democratic norms. They don't care about the idea of some type of guardrails to ensure some type of semblance, regardless of what you feel, of some type of semblance of democracy. They don't care. Conservatism, the conservatism ultimately, that's where it leads to. It's more than just a conflict of interest. It's like it's a broken judiciary. It's a broken judiciary. Imagine being able to just kind of finagle your way and just choose the judge that you want. No, that's might as well not have a judiciary, because what's the point, right? Yeah, well, maybe he doesn't deserve the respect for me to try to even attempt to find out how his name should be pronounced, honestly. He doesn't deserve that respect. That is a court of Star Chamber. I don't know what that means, but I assume it means it's like a kangaroo court, like a false court. I don't know. Anyways. Also last Thursday, the inevitable occurred. Dude handed down his decision claiming that the Title X program, Title 10 program, violates the constitutional right of parents to direct the upbringing of their children. But it doesn't, though. What? The GOP does not care because the GOP wants Trump as king? No, yeah, well, they don't care because they don't care about, like, democratic norms. Yes. Dude's decision is riddled with legal errors, and some of them obvious enough to be spotted by a first-year law student. Jesus. It contradicts a 42-year-long consensus among federal courts that parents do not have a constitutional right to target government programs providing contraceptive care. So there's a reasonable chance that Dude will be reversed on appeal even in a federal judiciary dominated by Republican appointees. Nevertheless, Dude's opinion reveals that there are powerful elements within the judiciary who are eager to limit access to contraception. Again, this judge didn't get there by accident. All right, this judge was appointed by Trump. Elections have consequences. This didn't happen by accident. This didn't, oops, he just stumbled into that. No. This is a direct result of Republicans winning elections. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. A Republican won the presidency. He was allowed to choose and pick judiciaries, federal judiciaries. And as a consequence, a couple years down the road, we have this. Dude's opinion is incompletely drafted and makes several obvious legal errors. The Constitution, for example, does not permit litigants to file federal lawsuits challenging a government program unless they've been injured in some way by that program, which the Supreme Court also has managed to forget. That's a thing, but whatever. A requirement known as, quote, standing. But Alexander DeAnda, the father in this case, seeking to stop Title 10 funded programs from offering contraception to minors, does not claim that he has ever sought Title 10 funded care. He does not allege that his daughters have ever sought Title funded care, and he does not even allege that they intend to seek Title 10 funded care in the future. So, in other words, like, what the fuck, dude? How are you even in a courtroom without being laughed out of this courtroom immediately? Thus, this case should have been dismissed for lack of standing. As the Supreme Court held in Lujan, versus Defenders of Wildlife, the plaintiff in a federal lawsuit must show that they've been injured in a manner that is actual or imminent and not conjectural or hypothetical. But Deanda has offered nothing more than conjecture that if Title X continues to operate as it has for decades, one of his daughters might at some point, perhaps, kind of, maybe, sort of, obtain contraception. The horror. Yeah. Kind of weird and kind of creepy. But, that's conservatism, folks. Dude nevertheless allowed this suit to proceed. Additionally, Dude places an astonishing amount of weight on a Texas law which provides that a parent has a right to consent to their child's medical and dental care. Okay. But how does that have to do with the idea that a child can go, that a adolescent can obtain the care that they need as well? I don't understand. But the Constitution states explicitly that federal law is the supreme law of the land. Yeah, that's how this works. And when the state law prevents a federal law from operating as Congress intended, including the federal law creating the Title X program, then the state law must yield. If the law worked any other way, then the states would have the power to fundamentally alter federal welfare programs, which of course, that's not the way that works. They live in an entirely world of conjecture and hypothetical, so how can we be surprised when they consider themselves harmed? True! It's like they're fighting shadows of things that never happened. Seems kind of a consistent thing. Trump, but the GOP should jump and approve DeSantis? No way! DeSantis is even worse. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. No, DeSantis is even more dangerous. DeSantis is even more dangerous. Why would you say such a thing? Republican state lawmakers who believe that Medicare or Social Security eligibility age should be 75 or 125 for that matter could pass a law imposing this new age requirement, thus destroying Congress's power to create universal programs that benefit all Americans regardless of whether they live in a red state or blue state. The idea that parents have a constitutional right to shape their child's upbringing, and that is this right that undermines government-funded contraceptive care, which, okay, but these two are different things, has been around for nearly half a century. It's just never gained any real traction in federal court because there's no way that it should. But okay, whatever. Creepy conservatives, whatever. This is most likely what happened. Trump lost the midterm and everybody, but the extremists are turning their backs already. I mean, he has lost a lot of support. And that's kind of worrying because that means DeSantis has a shot. And DeSantis is worlds worse than him. Doe versus Irwin, a federal appeals court case, the plaintiffs brought a similar challenge as Deanda against a state-operated family planning clinic that served both adults and teenagers. Doe acknowledged that a line of the Supreme Court decision stretching back to the 1920s established that parents have a limited constitutional right to the care, custody, and nurturing of their children. Yeah, like, that would make sense. That would make sense. Swaggy Solidarity with a tier 1 sub prime gaming. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Woo-hoo. Not arguing that DeSantis is better, but Trump is done in the GOP. I don't know if he's done. But he doesn't have as much of a pull as originally thought. We shall see. We shall see. The real question that I said yesterday, the real question is whether or not DeSantis decides to actually run. That is going to essentially be the last piece of the puzzle as to how this is going to play out. If DeSantis doesn't run, then most likely Trump is going to win the primary, which is great. Which is great because Trump is going to lose the general election. I mean, if he was already compromised, now even more so. So yeah, he's definitely going to lose. Yeah. If DeSantis decides to run, that's where we have problems because DeSantis, while not guaranteed, DeSantis has a shot. DeSantis has a shot at beating, at winning the White House. Yes, which is bad. DeSantis is a far more dangerous operator. Yes, because he somewhat knows how to operate the levers of the system, and he's better at hiding its power level. He's better at hiding his power level. Our views of Trump are being heavily skewed because of the corporate media absolutely adores Trump. Well, yeah, but I don't know like what that means. Like the views of favorability are skewed. I could believe that. Yeah, but DeSantis also knows how to actually enact policy that is far worse than what Trump can do. So no, I do not want DeSantis. I don't want him anywhere near any lever of power whatsoever, ideally. At the same time, however, Doe held that as with adults, the minor's right to privacy includes the right to obtain contraceptives, and so the plaintiff's claim in Doe placed these two constitutional rights in tension. But the court found an easy way to relieve this tension. In each of the Supreme Court's previous parental right cases, the state was either requiring or prohibiting some activity. That is, the government used its coercive power to either require a child to take an action their parents did not like, or forbid the child from taking an action their parents wanted the child to take. A program like Title X cannot violate this rule against coercion because there's nothing coercive about it. The federal government provides grants to health providers who voluntarily offer family planning services to their patients. And those providers, in turn, offer their services to patients who voluntarily seek out this contraceptive care. No one is required to receive reproductive health care services funded by Title X. The distinction between coercive government programs which compel certain behaviors and welfare programs which merely fund voluntary activity is implicit in the Constitution's text. The Supreme Court, somewhat controversially, found that the right of parents to shape their children's upbringing in the Constitution's Due Process Clause, which provided that no one may be deprived of liberty without due process of law. But it's impossible to deprive someone of liberty by creating a voluntary program that no one is required to participate in. Yeah, exactly. Liberty, by definition, means that you have the freedom to do as you choose. To all of this, Dude offers a hodgepodge of half-formed arguments that layer several... It doesn't have to make sense. They don't care about making it make sense. I don't know why we would have to go through this, but whatever. One of his primary arguments rebutting Doe, for example, relies on the fact that the Supreme Court's parental right decision in Troxel versus Granville does not rely on a heavy distinction between voluntary and compulsory programs. But Troxel involved a coercive state law governing who is allowed to interact with a child against their parents' wishes, so there was no reason for Troxel to discuss voluntary programs because such a program was not before the court. Similarly, he claims that common law held minors were incapable of giving consent to make important life decisions. Wait. Common law held that minors were incapable of giving consent to make important life decisions. So why the fuck would then you want to ban abortions? You can't simultaneously force in the case that happened in Ohio, was it Ohio or I don't remember, a 10-year-old who was raped. Apparently, according to this guy, he would be he would be in favor of essentially forcing her to have a child, but also at the same time, she is at 10 years of age incapable of making life decisions because they shouldn't have sex. Did you not listen to what I said? She was 10, so no, even by his own standards, she wouldn't be able to consent. Right. Regardless, she was raped. That's the point. But he's saying that, yeah, the girl was from Ohio. Okay, but he's saying that minors are incapable of giving consent to make important life decisions. Like being forced to be a fucking mother? Being forced to carry a child to term? It doesn't matter if you wrote it before. In either context, it doesn't make sense. So what? People just shouldn't have sex? That's like clown logic, dude. Yeah, this is gross. But English and early American law permitted minors to consent to sex as early as 12. Sheesh. A fact that simultaneously deeply upsetting and completely inconsistent with Dude's implication that 17-year-olds historically did not have control over their sexuality. That leaves him with a policy argument against the rule announced in Doe. Dude claims that limiting the scope of parents' constitutional right to cases involving actual coercion would lead to, quote, absurd results. Yes, that is a belief held by the judge, not saying that it is good. Yeah, it's not. It's clown logic. It's a judge who is appointed by Trump trying to make these weird arguments, you know, like kids, adolescents shouldn't have access to the reproductive care and shouldn't have access to like sex ed and whatnot. That's kind of weird. But you know, conservatives. Absurd results such as preventing parents from becoming aware of what books their children are reading in school and denying them the right to exempt their children from any offensive reading curriculum, or preventing parents from intervening if a doctor provides care that is genuinely harmful. Okay, but genuinely harmful. Not, you know, maybe you should practice safe sex practices. What? Creepy shit. But even if you assume that parents have a right to exempt their children from public school curriculums, a mandatory school assignment is a coercive act, so decisions like Doe are consistent with the rule that allowing parents to exempt their children from certain school assignments. Similarly, Dude's decision reaches far beyond the unlikely circumstances when a family planning clinic prescribes medically harmful treatment to teenagers. According to Dude, parental consent does not depend on the particular form of contraception or the environment in which the contraception is distributed? What? So his decision would prevent a public university from leaving out a basket of free condoms that anyone, including a student who are not yet 18, can take from as they choose. This is wild. This is wild and creepy. Obviously, questions about teenage sexuality are fraught, but the bottom line is that people's elected representatives in Congress debated these difficult issues, and they chose to enact the Title X program that provides funding that Dude finds objectionable. It is simply not a judge's job to short-circuit this democratic process of determining how the law should approach teenage sexuality, nor is it Dude's job to impose his own well-documented prudishness on a federal program like Title X. So, what happens to Title X now? Although Dudes claim that Title X violates the constitutional right of parents to direct upbringing of their children, he has not yet ordered the federal government to halt the program, because I don't think he can. His opinion concludes by requiring the parties in Indiana to submit proposals by this Thursday laying out just what actions Dude should take against the federal government. But Indiana's lawyers have already signaled that they want an aggressive injunction that could temporarily shut down Title X and permanently harm teenagers' ability to obtain reproductive care. In their complaint, these lawyers asked Dude to prohibit the federal government from funding any family planning project in the U.S. that fails to obtain parental consent before distributing prescription contraception or other family planning services to minors, which is, again, incredibly creepy. Yeah, okay. Should Dude issue such a sweeping order, which he could very well do given his past record, that could force the federal government to hit the pause button on the entire Title X program. To comply with such an order, Title X would have to build systems to determine which reproductive health providers give parents a veto power over medical care provided to their teenage children. There's a decent chance that Dude will eventually be reversed by the Supreme Court. Okay. Sure. The Supreme Court's like super conservative majority? Sure. Among other things, the standing problem in this case is so glaring that it may be even hard for Deanna's lawyer to convince 5 justices that they are allowed to bring this case in the first place, but it may be a while before that even happens. Dude's decision will appeal first to exceedingly conservative Fifth Circuit, which has a history of rubber stamping outlandish decisions handed down by Dude and similarly minded judges. In short term, in other words, Dude could create a great deal of chaos for reproductive health clinics, which may lose an important source of funding for months or even longer. Which, I mean, even that's a win for these, like, zealots. Even that's a win for these zealots, to be honest. And, like, this idea that, oh, you know, these lefties are saying that it's, like, a slippery slope, that they're going to come after... They're not going to do anything with, like, contraceptives and everything like that. Well, here we are. Here we are. Just a dying gasp of a conservative of a conservative religious movement. Of course, just the fact that they are dying makes them very dangerous. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, is that what it means, or is it like them gaining more strength? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's the question. If it is the case that they are on their way out as like a movement or as a political power, that's great. But that's great, and yes, I agree. I agree that it does make them incredibly dangerous, as we see. It's just like, are we sure that that's what that means? Because they seem to be gaining steam. But we'll see. It's all anti-science, and science is slowly winning. Really? Is it? I mean, I hope so. I hope that logic prevails, but it doesn't seem that way here. Or at least it doesn't feel that way. The vibe doesn't the vibe check doesn't pass. People are way more educated today, and even uneducated people. That's true, but you know, problem is that with the infestation of federal court system with Trump-appointed judges, will keep it in the system far longer than maybe the public support warrants. Problem is that with the infestation of the federal court system with Trump-appointed judges, yeah, sure. This is again like a direct line between like Republicans winning elections and damage. Objective bad shit happens when Republicans win elections. I mean, this is only example number 255,389,450 as to what happens when Republicans win elections. Like conservatives winning elections, not a good thing. Bad things happen. Bad things happen. Well, on like, I guess a silver lining note, the fact that like Congress managed to pass that Marriage Equality Act, at the very least, provide some type of protection where, considering where this movement is heading, considering where the Supreme Court was heading, I guess that's one silver lining. Now, if we can get bodily autonomy put in the books, that would be great. As they begin to feel under threat, they attack. They have spent a lot of time planning this. We know that. We've watched them take over state houses and school boards. They wouldn't need to do that if they weren't losing. The problem is that we have been way too nice. Well, I do agree. About that, Hambliss. But these are positions of power that they are winning. And that's a problem because that means they get to enact that agenda. So it is a big deal that they're winning positions in state governments, which are important. They really are, because as we see, when Roe versus Wade went down, all of a sudden those local elections, the state, the composition of the state legislature and state senate and governorship, all of a sudden that shit became super, super important. All right, folks, let's switch gears a little bit. Well, I do have this one, which is kind of relevant to what we're discussing. So I think before we
There's never been a better time to get away.
What the heck? You're supposed to be on mute. I guess before we move on, maybe we should just kind of finish this arc that we're talking about. I agree, they're super dangerous, right? Still very powerful, but losing, and that's actually about as dangerous as it gets. I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope that is just like the dying death throes of like this Christian nationalist, theo-fascistic, whatever you want to call it, movement. I really hope that that's what it is, and it's just the final death throes that we see, that we're watching. I hope that's the case. That would be honestly, that would be ideal. If these people would just like fuck off for good. All right. Yeah, before we switch gears, I guess we can just end it on this one. White House GOP lawmakers call for martial law, discussing an affront to country's principles. The White House on Wednesday pushed back on newly published text from Republican Ralph Norman that showed him urging the Trump administration to impose martial law in its waning days. Yeah, cool. Plotting against the rule of law and subvert the will of the people is a disgusting affront to our deepest principles as a country, Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates said in a statement. We all, regardless of party, need to stand up for mainstream values and the Constitution against dangerous and ultra-MAGA conspiracy theories and violent rhetoric. Regardless of party. Unfortunately, the Republican Party has decided that it doesn't care about any of that. So good luck. Mayhem Hippie, how's it going? I wish it was going to be that easy. It's just the start of a lot of violence from them, I fear. Yeah, it's not exactly something I want to hear, but I do agree that that's probably where it's going. I do agree that that's probably where that's heading. Yeah, supposedly, Swaggy solidarity, supposedly, from enemies, foreign and domestic. But, you know, they don't really give a shit about any of that. Talking Points memo on Monday published texts from Republican lawmakers that were sent to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in the final days of the Trump presidency. One of the messages was from Norman 3 days prior to President Biden's inauguration, in which the congressman urged Meadows to encourage Trump to impose martial law, something that he considered our last hope in saving the republic. Yeah. Cool. Very normal, very very democracy. Imagine coming in here and trying to tell me that the one thing that I should, as if like the one problem, is only the like corporatocracy or whatever they tried to point out, and trying to minimize the idea of like the very emboldened authoritarian streak that the Republicans are indulging right now. Yeah. You can't fight if your problem is with like corporatism, you can't fight corporatism under a fascistic boot. You can't fight anything under a fascistic boot. This is why I can't get behind both sides are the same. I know what leftists mean when they say that, but it's dangerous thinking. Yeah, no left-leaning person should be entertaining the idea that both sides are the same. It is a ridiculous argument. Like you could make statements like, yeah, both sides serve capital. Okay. Yeah, both sides are engaging in like obvious corrupt bullshit. Okay. That still doesn't change the fact that the Republican Party is like the danger. Not like to be taken lightly. They are the danger. When you start hearing shit like, yeah, teehee, if we would have done the insurrection, we would have done it right and won. That's not a joke. That's not funny. That's not sarcastic. I don't care. That's not sarcasm. When you have literal members of Congress making jokes like that, when you have members of Congress urging the White House, the Trump administration, to just enact martial law. When you have sitting members of Congress openly embracing the idea of Christian nationalism, when you have the ex-president, and during the time of his presidency as well, having dinner with people like Ye. When you have Nazis, literal Nazis, and I don't mean that like in a hyperbolic sense. I mean that like literal Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. Okay, there's no argument there. He's not very shy about it. Making or organizing, introducing you as a speaker. When Nick Fuentes is literally having dinner with you. I mean, hello? Like, red flag alert. And both political parties take donation of money, but Dems don't have false elections. And Wednesday, like the issue is one of like democratic norms. The left or the Dems, the Democratic Party, whatever, isn't going around talking about like rigged elections. Okay, that's not the talk of the town. That's not the talk of the town. Look at Occupy, look at the movement in Portland, look at the Waters Life movement. They just had a massive oil spill. And if we try to pick up arms and fight like the right, we would be met with nothing but violence at the hands of the government. True! Sedition should merit immediate expulsion from Congress. Absolute shame. Yep. Yeah, like the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene still has a job it's a sign of things not being good. for a lack of a better word, is not a good thing. The fact that somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't immediately expelled for Congress for making the tee-hee sarcastic comment is not a good verdict. Not good. Not good. The biggest difference is them believe in science, which is no small thing. 1 million Americans died with COVID. Yeah, sure. That's yeah. The Dems are condemning these options for clout and votes, and they're just as evil when it comes to issues that actually matter and folks organize for. Yeah, like I understand that, like, yeah, sure, dude. Like the the Democratic Party has massive amounts of problems, right? Like the whole thing with like the railroad workers and the railroad strike. Yeah, that was effed up. That was super effed up. And like there are legitimate things to call them out for. It's just that, like, to put them on the same level, or to like think that, oh, like, well, they're just the same thing. They're just two wings of the same. No. Steve King repped Iowa for almost 20 years. Dude was absolutely a Nazi. Just hit it better than dipshits like Fuentes. Yeah. Well, dipshits like Fuentes like don't really fear being out in the open anymore. They don't really fear being out in the open. They are both wings to the same bird. I don't know if that's like something I can get behind, really. If you're talking about like they're both wings of the same bird, like they both serve capital, yeah, sure. But I mean, I don't see the Democratic Party calling for like the termination of the Constitution. I don't see the Democratic Party literally attempting to shoehorn fake electors to overturn an election. I don't see the Democratic Party. I don't see the Democratic Party engaging in insurrectionary rhetoric and insurrectionary behavior. That's just like not a thing that's happening. I don't see a Democratic representative. I don't see like AOC making like jokes like tee-hee, if we were to do a I don't know, just to meme it up. If we were to do like a communist revolution, we would win. And we would bring guns. Like, what? This is a thing that doesn't happen. Yeah, sure, if you want to talk about greed. Yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. Yes, completely with you. They both serve their own needs. Sure, that's politics. Yeah, they both want power. They both have problems with corruption and whatnot. Sure, agreed. Where were they when the battle for Roe v. Wade was going down? Where were they when people were fighting against police over the years? Where have they been to protect our rights with labor and human rights? Not very present. And that's a fair criticism. That's a fair criticism. And who has been fighting actively to dismantle all of that? Do you see the difference? Do you see like the difference between like, yeah, that's fucked up that they didn't step up and immediately call for the codification of Roe v. Wade. That's messed up that they didn't immediately attempt to engage in some type of like discourse about police reform or anything really. Those are valid criticisms, but who are the ones who are the ones that took away Roe v. Wade? Who are the ones that actively dismantled that? Who are the ones who gave corporations everything and squashed labor? Mostly Republicans. Mostly. When Republicans win elections, shit like Roe v. Wade goes away. The right to your bodily autonomy wasn't taken away by Dems. The right to bodily autonomy was not taken away by Dems. Let me put it this way. If Republicans were in charge and AOC said what MTG said, they'd execute her 100%. Like, yeah. 100%. 100%. I agree that they're complicit. Yes. Agreed. That they're complicit to a certain degree and they're failing to serve their own and everyone's needs. True. But I still believe in electoralism, especially locally. Like, the thing is, like, you can't expect to you can't expect to, like, think that electoralism is going to solve every problem. It's more like, if the tool's in front of you, why not use it? If you have that tool in front of you, why not use it? The right is absolutely going to use it if you don't. So I do see the differences. My point is that I think we were upset that they got away with it while many of us didn't. While fighting for our causes, they did the damn thing they thought was right. I do not support it, but if we could do the same thing to get what we want and get away with it, we would. Wait, what? They did the damn thing they thought was right. Wait, what? I would pick up arms in a heartbeat to tear down this broken government. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. The difference is that, the difference is that these people absolutely, were willing to to engage in insurrectionary behavior over a lie. Over a lie and power. Over a lie and power. Remember, many people do not vote, but still no big red. Well, there was a big turnout this time. But yeah. I hope that makes sense. Now, the GOP forgets SCOTUS did not hear Trump 2020 election case. Yeah. I think we are there, but the left tends to be more humanitarian and more rational. But how much must we give up before we push this time of action? Granted, we're not doing it on a hill based of lies. Yeah, but are we though? Because, like, we have to be. We have to be the rational and humanitarian. We have to be the empathetic side. We have to. I mean, when the chips are down, that's a whole different story. When the chips are down, that's a whole different story, and you have no other choice, then sure. These Norman texts were published on the heels of Representative Green telling at a gala in New York over the weekend that the January 6th insurrection would have been more successful had she and former President Trump strategist Steve Bannon organized it. The White House similarly rebuked these comments, calling them a slap in the face to law enforcement. Yikes. Yeah, I don't know what triggered it, but probably something enough so that I can't even see it. Because usually it'll pop up here and I can just approve things or disapprove things. Just hang on, Zoomers. Science is destroying capitalism for you. Automation, fusion, and anti-aging will give you the opportunity to fix climate change and overhaul what we think of, sort of. No, I think that's I think that's gonna take a little bit more than that. I think it's gonna take a little bit more than that. Techno progressivism. Techno progressivism. Haven't heard that one before. Yeah, some words just get immediately automated for, you know, reasons. For reasons. It was a poem about the first day came for the communists, and I did not speak because I was... Oh, yeah, the first... Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unfortunately, per the usual suspects, Nazis ruined a lot of stuff for chat. They will give you the opportunity. You still have to be ready and do it. Yep. The kids are alright. The kids are alright. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Mayhem Hippie. Unfortunately, you know, Nazis ruined a lot of shit for chat. Nazis and anti-Semitic shit ruined links, and also I have a bunch of like super heavily auto-modded stuff. The other day, I had a couple of them come into chat. One of them got immediately banned, and the other one said, to be banned is to be Jude. I'm not even kidding. So that one also got banned. two back-to-back Nazis. So I apologize if some moderation is a little bit heavy-handed. That was a fun day. True! The circus ended early and they all came here. And you're right, Mayhem Hippie. That's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I don't want this shit to progress any more than it is. I want to take the wins out of any fascistic movement. Now, I want the Republican Party to be completely crushed as much as possible. I want the Republican Party to be crushed so that I can turn my attention elsewhere. At what point do we continue sacrificing labor rights, the environment, and human water rights, water and human rights until that breaking point is reached? Well, there's still quite amount of time for that, except for the environmental stuff. Sadly, it is clear that their poor reasoned behavior works for their cause, but not for ours. It's not fair. Have you ever had to treat strangers for tear gas and baton stitches? No, I've had to run away from that. I've had to run away from that. It's not fun. No. Not fun. Not fun at all. It's not fun and it's not fair. You're right. It's not fun and it's not fair. To be fair, the Democrats need to be crushed too. We really need new parties. Yeah, but what are we supposed to do until the threat is dealt with? What are we supposed to do? What is the alternative solution right now? Have you ever sat on a bus detained for hours? No. Organized supply chains that is met with AKs to the face? No, thank you. We organize and stay peaceful, and that's what we receive, yet the asshats get away and praised as heroes. Yeah, it's fucked up, isn't it? Do you think that that's... Yeah, I acknowledge that. It's fucked up. It's not fair. Yeah, I completely understand that. I know it's not fair. And yet I'm still chugging along. I know it's not fair. So we continue to hear this rhetoric, and yet nothing except from what effectively amounts to thoughts and prayers is being said. Oh, well, you know, that's just a slap in the face of the law enforcement. You shouldn't say that. The White House firmly wags its finger. The White House firmly wags its finger as Republicans continue to engage in this behavior. Capitalism has got to go. I'm only saying that these advancements will destabilize the economy to Bronze Age collapse levels, and we can use that. I'm all about science and tech, and I agree that smart, caring people will develop mitigation methods, but capitalism will corrupt any project. I'm definitely economically biased, though. Well, yeah, I mean, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Unfortunately. That's the problem with the incentive structure that we're dealing with right here. And what makes money in a cheap way, because of lobbying and deregulation and all that, is, well, fossil fuels. And they have used all of that accumulated wealth and power to stomp out anything else, or to prevent it, to prevent progress as much as humanly possible, as long as they're still making the bucks. That's it. So yes, capitalism, definitely a factor that has to be engaged with. No doubt about it. And understand it and how it will affect the economy. Get ahead of them. They aren't paying attention to science. Yep. Prevent it by planning to control and direct the tech, and understand it and how it will affect the economy. Get ahead of them, and they aren't paying attention to science. You mean like the technology that gets made, not make it so that they don't get a hold of it, like but how do you? I don't know how that would work. How do we properly rehabilitate these folks? You can't. You can't. And I don't mean that like it's impossible. I mean that in this current state, they're not willing, right? It's the same thing as when you're like, well, how do I get somebody out of a cult? You can't. The only thing that should be happening right now in an ideal scenario would be that all of these lawmakers, from both local, from all the way from like local to state to federal, engaging in this behavior, they should be removed. They should be removed in jail. They should be removed and in jail. So yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, sedition is a serious thing. And all of these folks continuing to stoke that fire, continuing to pour gasoline, like some type of consequence needs to be done. Needs to be done. No doubt about it. This talk about planning insurrections, or if they were ahead of, or if they were at the head of it, they would be successful. Like, no, enough of that. Enough is enough is enough. At what point do we draw the line where we can no longer tolerate like intolerance effectively, right? Because if these people would have their way, then it's GG for everybody. Does that make sense? Yeah, there are some things and industries that should be nationalized. Swaggy, yes. So no snowflake lib camps?
Please clap.
Yep, so TLDR, Republican, the Republican Party continues to show for the umpteenth example at this point as to why they are incompatible with democracy or incompatible with democratic systems. Cool. Shifting gears, protesters block construction of Arizona border wall made up of shipping containers. Yeah. Suspects facing serious charges include second-degree murder, blah 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 blah, will no longer be held in custody until trial under a new First Nation Illinois law abolishing cash bail. Wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I think I've seen this before. This doesn't make sense. Can I tell you right now, they're just gonna make us more miserable. We had more free time before the Industrial Revolution. True. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Come on, AP. Stop it. Okay. False. The judge in Illinois will still have discretion to order suspects for these and order serious crimes to be held in jail pending trial if they're deemed a threat to public safety. Yeah, no way. No shot that a judge is just going to be like, oh yeah, dude, you're facing second-degree murder and you're a flight risk? Yeah, dude, see you later. I'm sure you'll show up to court. No, that doesn't make any sense. But the new law does impose higher standards to meet those conditions that critics say will make it harder to detain people. Social media posts and conservative news outlets has been taking aim at the Illinois Pretrial Fairness Act, which is scheduled to take effect January 1st. This post lists a range of violent crimes that they say will be considered non-detainable, including second-degree murder, kidnap, robbery, burglary, arson, threatening public officials. The post also includes a dire warning that Chicago and other Illinois communities will soon devolve into a real-life version of The Purge, a horror movie where all crime, including murder, is allowed one night a year. This is hyperbolic. This is incredibly hyperbolic. The new law states detention shall only be imposed when it is determined that the defendant poses a specific, real, and present threat to a person or has a high likelihood of willful flight. Yeah, of course. That means that if you're in jail for second-degree murder, it stands to reason that you are both a real and present danger to any person, and you also have an enormous incentive for being a flight risk. So yeah, I don't think I don't think this is like the purge law. Okay. I've seen this like in conservative circles. It ended up being like a nothing burger. The purge, really? All crime is legal? No, it's not. You still will be arrested for burglary, for arson, for murder. Yes, you still will be arrested. So it's not legal. And second of all, if you are deemed a person, if you're deemed a threat, whether it be from threatening like an actual person, community, or a flight risk, a judge is not going to let you go. That's not how this works. On January of 2023, Illinois will take its place in history as when they become the first state to test out the quote purge in real life. Ironically named the Safe TPAC will charge and release criminals without cash bail for 12 now non-detainable offenses. Those offenses include second-degree murder, aggravated battery, arson, drug-induced homicide, kidnapping, burglary, robbery, intimidation, aggravated DUI, aggravated fleeing. But specifically, it says that if you're a flight risk, then you're not going to be released. Fleeing and eluding is by definition will make you a flight risk. You're not getting out of that. If they can catch you, you don't think that they will use this to prosecute POC community. They're going to abuse this law. I'm not. I'm not sure. So we should have mandatory bail then? I'm not understanding. So we should have mandatory bail because then if you're rich and white, you can just pay the bail? The post, which is including an image of a menacing mass marauder, received more than 80,000 likes. Illinois' new law ends cash bail or payments imposed by a judge as a condition of a person's release pending a trial. It's among the most contentious part of the SAFE-T Act, a wide-ranging criminal justice bill in Illinois. Lawmakers passed this in 2021 in response to a nationwide reckoning on racism and police brutality following the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other people of color. But the law doesn't create a new classification of non-detainable offenses, as the critics claim. Suspects can still be jailed pre-trial if they're considered a public safety risk or likely to flee to avoid criminal prosecution. Yeah, I'm not. Am I just like misunderstanding chat? The new law states that detention shall only be imposed when it's determined that a defendant poses a specific, real, and threat to a person or has a high likelihood of willful flight. Yes. So if you, I don't know, get clapped for second-degree murder, that you're not going anywhere. Additionally, those charged with forcible felonies in which probation isn't an option if convicted can also be detained pre-trial under the law following a specific required court hearing. So, yeah. How many people will be detained based on the color of their skin? That's already happening. I don't think that's going to affect this. That's already happening. And you can't automatically... Like this is only in regards to if you are being charged with a crime. There's a court date. You're already heading for trial. It eliminates that whole cash bail thing, unless, of course, you are a threat to society and whatnot. Like second-degree murder. If you're going to trial for second-degree murder, if you're going to trial for things like for felonies such as like criminal first-degree murder, sexual assault, things like this, burglary, kidnapping. I think it's going to give it a more free hand to do so. I'm not opposed to abolishing cash bail. The actual law leaves a lot of room for wiggling. There's a lot of gray language. Maybe, but I mean, like, clearly the American Civil Liberties Union push for this. Like, I don't know. It seems to me like a lot of conservatives made a whole huge deal about it. And it ended up being like as a nothing burger, and then they kind of dropped it. Contrary to the false arguments advanced by opponents, the new pretrial system will not simply release every person arrested for a crime. It is a welcome reform to current practice of releasing people who can pay the bond with the minimal regard for threat that may pose to they may pose to survivors. Prosecutors, for example, will now have to show a defendant poses as a threat to specific identifiable person or persons rather than a more general threat to the community or class of persons, or they'd have to show that the person has a high likelihood of willful flight. Yeah, so if you can't prove that you're a specific threat or a high likelihood of willful flight, it is less likely that you will be then forced to pay bail, or you will then be detained before trial. So ideally, the scenario would be all the non-violent crimes. You should not be detained. You shouldn't be forced to pay bail, especially for like non-offending crimes that have no victim. Or with the preponderance of white stochastic terrorists being arrested, too many of them were being held in jail. Wait, what? There are two sides of this coin. I'm interested to see how it turns out, hoping for the best, but is this America planning for the worst? Yeah, but like the idea is to limit cash bail, is to eliminate that. That's the whole point of this. Anywho. What? Get out of here, Jim Cramer. What started as a small demonstration turned out into a 2-week standoff as residents and environmentalists fight outgoing Arizona Governor Ducey's effort to wall off sections of the U.S.-Mexico border with shipping containers. 20 protesters withstood freezing temperatures over the weekend to defy the project, which started in August after Ducey issued an executive order directing the State Department of Emergency and Military Affairs to fill the gaps with the existing border wall in Yuma County. The project's $95 million expansion into Cochise County comprises about 3,000 steel containers. Ducey's office did not respond for multiple requests for comment until last week, when protesters blocked access to the site. Work crews stacked hundreds of shipping containers topped with razor wire along the Arizona remote eastern boundary with Mexico. Demonstrators say they will not leave until these containers are removed, even if it means camping in tents in below freezing temperature. Recently, a volunteer brought a Christmas tree for the protest site. We are protectors of the borderlands, said Kate Scott, who helped organize the first protest. So until we see some action, we're staying put. Ducey, a Republican, has 2 weeks left as governor before Katie Hobbs, a Democrat, takes office. Hobbs says she opposes this border project, but despite her objections from her and her federal government, Ducey has remained undaunted and has forged ahead with the wall's construction. Not only like that, but it also presents like a lot of problems when it comes to environmental shit, and B, the fact that it crosses, it butts heads with like the federal government too. But yeah, pretty sure shipping containers are still needed elsewhere for, shipping stuff. Yeah, these people don't care. I guess they're upcycling.
Please clap.
Arizona has had enough with the Biden administration's open border policy. There's no such thing as an open border policy. We can't wait any longer. The Biden administration's act of urgency on the border security is a dereliction of duty. Once again, this is like bullshit. This is bullshit, as the immigration policies from the Biden administration have been relatively similar. I mean, the changes between like the Trump and the Biden administration immigration policy has been like very, very minute. There are some notable changes, but like realistically, most of the policies, most of like the way we do immigration have been relatively intact. So I don't know what they're complaining about. Off topic, Donald Trump just filed a frivolous, sanctionable, vexatious, and humiliating lawsuit against the Pulitzer Prize Board. I mean, good luck. Good luck. At the center of the controversy is a question of who owns the land where the shipping containers are being placed. Ducey insists Arizona holds sole shared jurisdiction, and he said the state has a constitutional right to protect residents from imminent danger. The brown people, folks. It's the brown people. Imminent danger of criminal and humanitarian crises. Yes. The federal government says the land is public and has called the project, quote, unlawful. Yeah. In October, Ducey sued federal officials who had agencies overseeing public land, including the U.S. Forest and Agriculture Department. The lawsuit accuses the Biden administration of inaction and failure to curb illegal border crossings. The lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court of Arizona intends to resolve the state's authority to protect its citizens granted to it by the U.S. Constitution. The governor's office said in a statement announcing this lawsuit. Our border communities are overwhelmed by illegal activity as a result of Biden's administration's failure to secure the southern border. I don't even know what the fuck that means. In a statement in October, Arizona's going to do a job that Joe Biden refuses to do, secure the border in any way we can, and we're not backing down. Cool, dudes. Whatever. While the issue at the international border with Mexico are difficult, trespassing and damaging the U.S. land, violating federal law, and usurping and obstructing federal agency jurisdiction and mission are not the solution. Yeah, whatever. This is kind of cool. Hobbs, who will be sworn in next month, has publicly said she will pause the work on this wall, but declined to say what she will do with the remaining shipping containers. She said last month that one option could be to use the leftover material to create affordable housing. Damn, that would be poggers. That would be super poggers if they could repurpose those shipping containers and material to make affordable housing. These people won't be happy until we have a border wall 1,000 miles thick when it reaches the edge of the atmosphere. True. People who live near the border say construction has disrupted their lives as large trucks carrying shipping containers zoom down rural roads that residents use to access the remote region. Not only that, like the people here don't even want this. The people here are complaining about it. Environmental advocates say not only the wall is unsightly, but also it disturbs fragile ecosystems that are home to endangered species. That includes ocelots, jaguars, and the Mexican spotted owl. Yeah, these people don't give a shit. The greatest border region is home to Sombra, the last known jaguar living in the U.S. The cat is most likely born in Mexico, and he has been spotted roaming around the Chihuahua Mountains in Arizona. His species once flourished across the U.S., but it was hunted to extinction first by European settlers and then the U.S. government. Nice. Way to go. Cool. Nice job. Cool. In 1963, the last known female jaguar in the U.S. was shot 150 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. On Monday, the Center for Biological Diversity sent a 107-page petition to U.S. Fish and Wildlife to reintroduce jaguars to the Southwest. It highlights the need for the large cats to have enough space to roam freely throughout the Southwest, including between Mexico and the U.S., to ensure genetic diversity. Jaguars play an important role in this ecosystem, even if we don't fully understand it. The border wall blocks every animal except human beings. Just think of all the potential tax dollars the government could rake in. I just don't understand. It's okay that they can travel to do the jobs. We won't, but not good enough to contribute to our country as citizens. It's freaking sad. Yeah, it's because, well, they're racist. Like, think about it. Some of the hardest working people, who contribute so much, to this country, are not only like being used as like political pawns, but like the xenophobia is just like off the charts. Right. Correct, Army of Lime. All right, folks. We are almost there. Oh, I forgot to do this. Taking sniping doctors from India, for example, very unethical. We should give anyone who wants to a good education and keep anyone that wants to stay. Yeah, like, I don't see why it's such a big deal, but, you know, whatever. GA Secretary, I should have just piggybacked off this one too. Secretary of State wants to end runoff elections. You want the TLDR? They're big mad. Big mad that Democrats have won a lot of their runoff elections. So now they want to do away with it. Super salty, very petty, and also they're big mad because they lose. They lost. Sorry. Georgia lawmakers said possible options could include lowering the threshold for winning an election to a 45% plurality. What? Wild. Or using ranked choice ballots for voters as some states do. That's fine. I would actually prefer that, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that these people are very big mad. Big mad. That they've lost pretty much a lot of these runoffs. Very big mad. And you know what? Stay mad. If you don't want to lose, get good. The Arctic is getting warmer and stormier, and ship traffic is increasing as the ice melts. Not good. Not good at all. The Arctic is becoming wetter and stormier as global climate change puts its vulnerable ecosystems and local communities at risk. The researchers describe how hotter air temperatures, melting sea ice, and shorter periods of snow cover, increased wildfire, and rising levels of precipitation have forced wildlife and indigenous people in the region to adapt. 2022 was the Arctic's sixth warmest year on record, continuing decade-long trend in the Arctic air temperatures have warmed faster than the global average. The Arctic's seventh warmest year since 1900 have been in the last 7, which is alarming as fuck. And researchers pointing out to a slew of signs that the region is undergoing a dramatic shift. For instance, a heat wave in Greenland in September prompted severe ice melt for the first time in 40 years. Climate change has triggered long summers in Greenland and accelerated retreat of glaciers. Scientists have also noted maritime ship traffic is on the rise in the Arctic as sea ice declines, with the most notable increases in traffic occurring among ships traveling from the Pacific Ocean through the Bering Strait and Beaufort Sea. Santa's taking swimming lessons. Remember the movie Day After Tomorrow? Yes. Is that really possible? The desalination point of the ocean? I don't know. Like, it seems like, you know, there are some serious because like the whole premise of like the Day After Tomorrow is like the currents stop moving, right? And the currents stop moving, which like domino affected a whole bunch of other shit. But really, we don't know the extent. And I suspect that, you know, it's Hollywooded up. It's Hollywooded up to shit. But if the currents stop, if the currents are completely stopped, it will set off it will set off some chain reactions that I don't think we fully have got that consequences fully down. I don't know how bad or what exactly, because like the Earth's systems are so complex that like one thing could lead to a whole bunch of other domino effects that I don't think we know like the full extent of what could possibly happen. We just know that it's not good. As V. Harkin said, they're already destabilized. They're slowing down, and that will have a severe impact in like the ecosystems, because the climate will inevitably be affected, and it's going to change all of that landscape. Which, if it does, will also have massive ramifications too. Yeah, it's not good. Greenland will be able to live the same. The oceans have a multitude of different salinity levels depending on where you are on the planet. Yep, look at the storm that's literally terrorizing the entire country. Yeah, there's a big winter storm up here. It's just that I don't know. It's just that I don't know what the ramifications are. The more fresh water from hey, Jesus!
Please clap.
How's it going? The more fresh water glaciers end up in the ocean, the more ocean warms, the more water stratifies rather than mixes, and will result in a global current slowing down. I don't think it will warm up enough to make it stop entirely, but it's already making a big difference. Yes. How's it going, Becky? Welcome, and thank you. Thank you. Instead of me answering that, why don't I just let like an actual person that knows what they're talking about? Address it. Yeah, the TLDR is that I don't know what the full ramifications are. If there was a scenario where these things the AMOC or whatever it's called, I don't know the extent of the ramifications of what that would be if it stopped. But yes, as she said, it's already making a huge difference. It's not good. It's not good. Nearly 150 Arctic scientists from 11 countries developed this year's Arctic Report Card. The assessment underscores the urgency to confront the climate crisis by reducing greenhouse gases and taking steps to be more resilient. The NOAA Administrator Rick Spinard said in a statement, "Scientists have warned that Arctic precipitation is on the rise across all seasons, and these seasons are shifting. The changes have disrupted the lives on people, animals, and plants that have previously experienced traditionally cold and dry conditions. The Arctic is warming nearly 4 times faster than the rest of the Earth. Researchers have discovered this year a phenomenon that is raising sea levels across the world. A 1-foot rise in global sea levels would have a major consequence for coastal communities, as sea level rise threatens to displace more than almost 200 million people by the end of this century." By the end of the century is not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time at all. 78 years is not a lot of time. Yeah, 200 million. That's just like, that's wild. Yes, go follow, do the thing. All right, go follow, and then go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do the thing. TLDR, this is bad. This is more bad news. Not good. Not good. All right, we got one more thing, and I think we're good. Noticing my area is gearing towards a more temperate climate with extreme cold during a certain part of the year. Not looking forward to a month of super cold temps. Yeah, like, we're expecting also to be like unusual. It was supposed to be an unusual winter here, but just like in almost every place you can think of, the climate has been incredibly wacky. Nothing about this is normal, because it's not.
Episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream. Sign up using the link below and get free access to Nebula, where you can watch my original series, The New F Word. For a lot of Americans, the word socialism means the government coming in and taking your stuff.
True! We had a whole month last year where it did not get above a single-digit temperature. Sheesh. True. The actual true and known definition of socialism is when the government comes in and takes your stuff. and does things. Yes.
But having your personal property taken away is a feature of capitalism, not socialism. More and more, our economy is shifting away from personal ownership and towards rent, with the most popular explanations and trends blaming it on millennials' preferences or actively encouraging it. Before we get started, just a quick refresher. Socialists are opposed to private property, not personal property. That terminology is dumb and confusing and an endless source of headache, and all it means is that socialists want collective ownership of the means of economic production, meaning businesses, farms, factories, stores, and so on, and couldn't care less about your toothbrush, your car, your guitar, or anything else you own. We want an end to an economic model where a single individual can have their name on a piece of paper, own a company, and have the final say on how it's operated while their workers who actually make the company productive don't.
Right, like the idea, like this, is it like, is the proper term straw man? With this like the ridiculous characterization that like socialism is when the government does stuff, like the government commanding and controlling the economy or anything of that nature. Isn't necessarily socialism either. The entire premise of socialism is that the workers themselves own the means of production. That's the idea. That you as the worker should reap the fruits of your labor. That's basically what it is. You make the stuff, you work the factories and whatnot. Then you should be the ones to receive the benefits of that.
It's got nothing to do with what's in your house. Private property is bad, personal property is good. That's it. Here's a video I did if you want to learn more about that. In any case, while capitalism is usually upheld as the champion of property rights, that really only applies to private property. Neoliberal governments will fight tooth and nail to make sure capitalists don't have their private ownership threatened in any way, shape, or form.
True.
But
they lobby and make all the rules in their favor. Yes. The idea of actually owning a company in an American's head is weird. Even if you start a company, the government is still in charge, and you still got to follow regulations. You cannot do right. You can't just do whatever you want with the money earned or the workers. Nowadays, Americans talk about companies as if they were slave companies. Wait, what? As if they were slave companies? You cannot do whatever you want with the money earned or workers. No, there are certain regulations, but I would say that you absolutely these large corporations have absolutely a massive influence, and they can skirt the rules or make regulations to their favor. When you do not have employees, but rather slaves working for you, people that have to obey and do everything you tell them. I mean, yeah, you're just describing pretty much any company because, like, that's how it works. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, when your options are, like, for example, like working class, when my options would be like, if I go and look at what's available, we have McDonald's, who does not pay a living wage, or I could work in Burger King that also doesn't pay a living wage. Okay. I could also work at Wendy's that doesn't pay a living wage either. I could find a job in retail, but that doesn't pay a living. Yeah, it seems to me like my choices aren't really choices, are there? Yeah, I mean, people are free insofar as, like, free meaning like in a loose definition, because, like, are you? Are you really free? If, like, at any given point, if you lose your job, you're screwed. If at any given point you lose your job, you lose your health care. At any given point, if you lose your job, you lose the ability to put a roof over your head, to put food on the table. that's it's not really free. As an employee, you're supposed to enter a contract with your employer. You do work, he pays you. That's like that's no disrespect, but that's a very naive way of thinking that's how it really works here. That's a very simplistic way of thinking, of thinking of how it works here. Because it's not. They absolutely have a lot of power, because like employers having the ability to dangle healthcare over you, over your family. Some people rely on that shit. They don't really have a choice, if that makes sense. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Or what are you gonna do? Find another job? Okay, they're gonna do the same shit. What are you gonna do? Go to another job that doesn't pay living wage anyways, and still f's you over because they take away your healthcare at any given point, or whatever benefits? Yeah, you're free to starve. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I'm complaining about, the slave owner mentality. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? That's how these companies operate. Yes, they all compete with each other to cheat the workers as much as possible. As a parent, I don't have a choice. If I wanted to maintain the really shitty state insurance that doesn't include dental or eye care, I have to have a job. If I lose my job, I lose my health care. Yes, and they know that. Yes, they know that. So it's not just that, oh yeah, dude, the boss can't just do whatever I want. That's not really how coercion works. There's an implicit threat that at any given point they can pull that rug under you. That's the problem. That is unique to America and the Western world, like historically influenced by slavery, took over that mentality for service jobs, and now people really think that the boss owns their... Yeah, because they do. I'm literally at the mercy of my job so that my kids do not suffer. Right, and they know that. And they know that. You don't think these large companies aren't aware and they don't dangle that over people's heads? Maybe not every employee, but enough of them. Enough of them. Like gun culture, that's a whole other thing. That's a that's an entire stream in and of itself. There's a huge difference between the gun owners and gun culture. Yeah, I'm specifically talking about like people who have made it their existence, the idea that they own a gun. That's their whole what is it? That's their whole not persona. What is it starts with a P. I'm blanking out. That's their whole personality. That's their whole personality. Yes. You know that the P word that's like, you know, talks about someone's person and it like describes them like a personality. Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you. Sorry, I'm like blanking out here. Yes, personality. Like when you make the idea that you're like that you own a gun, like your whole entire personality, you know, like the cliche like what people describe as like the amosexuals persona. Yes. Thank you. Yes, that's what it is. When you make that your whole persona, holy shit, does that get toxic real fast. Does that get toxic real fast. So, in terms of what you were saying, Army of Lyman, like what this discussion of chat was saying, so if you were stuck on an island, okay, if you were stranded on an island, and there's two people, there's you and another person, and this other person woke up before you and started grabbing all the coconuts, okay?
But when it comes to personal property, there are no such guarantees, and you probably already intuitively know this. Personal ownership is slowly being taken off the table for more and more stuff. We just don't have the option for true ownership for an increasing chunk of our personal property. The most obvious example in our everyday lives is probably media, stuff like movies and music. Although vinyl records are having a bit of a comeback, that's nothing compared to the vast majority of people in the US who have given up on owning music and switched to streaming on apps like Spotify and Apple Music. Same goes for movies and TV shows. Hardly anyone buys a DVD or Blu-ray, or even a digital copy of a movie, when streaming on Netflix, Hulu, or Disney Plus is the norm. It's not simply that the medium has changed from the physical world to the digital world, we've switched away from ownership entirely. These services run on subscription models first and foremost, meaning nothing is ever really owned. The monthly fee you pay only guarantees temporary access. And it's not inherently a bad thing.
I know that one.
It just is more convenient. But this shift away from ownership isn't limited to subscription services or simply a more convenient arrangement. If you have a Kindle, you might have bought an ebook before and assumed that because the button you clicked on said buy, that you actually owned it in digital format. But you don't. If you've ever read the end-user license agreement, which, come on, you'll have seen that it says, quote, Kindle content is licensed, not sold to you. Meaning at any given time, Amazon could revoke your access to the books you've supposedly bought. And it's not just Kindles. More and more, we've seen how the model of ownership we're all accustomed
That's freaking wild, dude. That this is even a thing. I didn't think about it that way.
to, where we buy something and once it's in our possession, it's ours to do with whatever we want, has started being chipped away.
Hi everyone, Mark Barber here at Sandy Hook.
Tractors now run proprietary software that doesn't allow operators to repair them, and forces them to go to John Deere approved retailers for anything from repairs to upgrades
yeah, the
to
right to repair
modifications.
thing.
And if you've ever owned a Keurig K-Cup machine, you'll know that the coffee machine software only lets you brew with Keurig authorized coffee. It's a problem so ridiculous that you need to buy a so-called Freedom Clip to make your own coffee in your own coffee machine. That's not usually how owning things works. Now, these examples are a bit silly, but the trend of personal ownership being challenged affects much more important things than ebooks and coffee. It's a problem that affects big things, like housing. In the US, the home ownership rate is around 66%. That number doesn't sound so bad, but that's until you put it into context. Over the last 70 years, fewer and fewer people are getting a chance to actually own their homes. Back in the old days, 70% of those born in the 1940s owned a home by the time they were 35. Now, that number is down to 50% for millennials born in the 80s, and it's only getting worse for younger generations. Every year, homeownership gets delayed further and further, and as a result, we spend more years renting, if not our entire lives. More time paying off our landlord's mortgages without ever owning the property ourselves. It's a problem that drains people's finances for years on end, and is one of the biggest roadblocks to having a stable economic and living situation. Needing to constantly worry about homelessness lurking around the corner should shockingly few things go wrong isn't a great way to live. And yet it's what renting implies for millions of people in a country with no universal housing guarantee. Not wanting to buy a home and preferring to rent is fine. That's not the problem here. The problem is that ownership isn't actually available as a choice for that many people, and there's no guaranteed alternative. It's rent with all its problems, or it's nothing. But this problem with ownership follows most people even once they've stopped renting. Homeowners aren't always actually homeowners because most people in the homeowners category are still paying back their mortgages. Or, said differently, today, around 60% of these quote-unquote homeowners are still renting, just from the bank instead of a landlord. And at the end of the day, it's the bank's house until you've paid your loan back. Miss enough payments and the bank will happily make that clear. And there's a unifying trend here. Although a rental-based model of consumption isn't inherently bad for everything, it's not black and white, nor is it happening throughout the entire economy, there is something to be said about the ways in which personal ownership is being challenged today. Despite some people predicting, or even outright wishing for an economy where you're completely dependent on rent-based consumption, there are obviously limits on how far that can actually go, and pros and cons that depend on what kind of consumption and ownership we're talking about. For something like housing, for example, renting has obvious disadvantages. A lack of security at the whims of the bank or the landlord, a regular drain on at least a third of your income, a lack of a stable asset from which to build a secure financial situation for the rest of your life, and of course the depressing reality of just having to deal with your landlord. But for something like music, renting might just be more useful. The thing is that simply focusing on the pros and cons of each kind of consumption misses the bigger picture. What's behind this growth in rent-based consumption is a natural tendency of capitalism. Most of us are getting poorer. We can't help but to rent. Or at least that's a big part of the explanation. While advocates of capitalism like to boast about its ability to lift people out of poverty, the reality is that this is only true for a very short time, if ever.
Right,
Over
and like,
time,
have you noticed that like a lot of, the biggest thing in recent decades or whatnot is like the idea of credit, the idea of buying shit on credit. Gotta keep them on that hamster wheel, yeah.
Poverty can only increase under a capitalist economy. That's because the logic of profit-seeking demands that capitalists do two contradictory things: increase their profits and cut their costs. On the face of it, there's no reason these two things can't go together. But the problem is that most productive industries rely on human labor for at least part of the process. Relying on human labor means paying out wages. But when you're in a constant competition for a higher profit margin, the incentive is to find a way to exploit your workers more and more.
Yep.
Whether that means cutting their wages, working them longer hours, increasing productivity with technology or through a different management style, any way to get more out of your workers than your competition, and of course more money than you're paying them, is on the table. The problem here is that this inevitably leads to crises. Over time, with profits increasingly funneled upwards towards the owners of capital, less of the wealth that is produced reaches the workers. And that's a problem because capitalism depends on constantly increasing consumption in order to properly function. What you're left with then is an economy where workers can't afford to pay for the things they make, inequality is on a permanent upward trajectory, and the share of the population that's poor keeps growing. And this isn't just theoretical, it's been happening for decades. The gap between the rich and the poor has been growing since at least the 70s. Recessions, crashes, inflation, and regressive tax policies based on the now debunked trickle-down philosophy have funneled wealth away from the working class and towards the wealthy. And real wages have completely stagnated, with the minimum wage stalling out around $7 an hour when our gains in productivity should have raised it to over $20 by now. The truth is, we can't afford to own that many things anymore. Buying all the movies, TV shows, and songs we listen to is simply out of reach for most people where a subscription isn't. And same goes for rent. The reason people aren't homeowners is because it's just too expensive to be. What we do buy, we often buy with debt. While an endless string of articles has framed this trend as a matter of personal preference, with headlines like, "Why the younger generation doesn't want to own stuff," or "Millennials actually prefer to rent homes than buy them," the reality is that renting is a band-aid for an economy that has killed most people's purchasing power and will continue to do so because it's the only thing it can do. Capitalism works first and foremost for the owners of capital, not workers nor even consumers. What rent allows is the continued profitability of industries that would have gone out of business if they still relied on selling ownership. And it's not simply a matter of technology. Of course, things like the internet allow for services like Netflix to exist, and the developments made in computer chips allow even a simple coffee maker to have a vetting process. But although tech developments may have allowed this model to work, the reason it's flourished is because it's usually cheaper for consumers in the short run, and more profitable for capitalists in the long run. For most things that have fallen into this rent-based selling access model.
That's right. Yes, that is a problem. Credit was actually a trick to keep the failing system afloat for just a few more decades. They instantly increased the available money in the U.S. by delaying the point of which it had to be paid because the country has been mismanaging its economy forever. Yeah, but it's not just the economy, right? Like, it's not just mismanagement. It's a feature, right?
The majority of the population can't help but accept the trade-off between price and ownership. It might not feel right to pay a monthly fee for a video editing software that'll ultimately cost more than outright ownership, but dropping $500 in one go is just not within most people's reach. We might prefer to actually own our books instead of buying a license, but it's just cheaper this way. We might prefer to own our homes instead of spending decades renting, and then another couple decades paying back a mortgage, but buying a place with straight cash just isn't an option. Renting sucks, but it's often the only financially viable move. And although rental-based models are full of trade-offs, they ultimately do share a common problem. Our lack of ownership over the goods we rent leaves them entirely up to the control of their actual owners.
True. What the heck is this ad? This is creepy. Who makes things like this?
The less telling example, you might remember when HBO removed over 30 shows from their streaming platform.
Allowing billionaires to hoard vast swaths of available wealth is definitely mismanagement. That's not that's gonna bite the US and everyone in the ass eventually. It's almost as creepy as Elmo. Hey, don't hate on Elmo. Yeah, but that's a feature, not a problem of mismanagement. That's a feature. That's what capitalism gravitates to. Capitalism gravitates to monopoly. Capitalism's end goal or end success is few billionaires owning everything.
earlier this year to avoid paying their creators residuals. The owners of those shows decided they were done with them, and suddenly that catalog vanished and became almost entirely inaccessible. It's not the end of the world, but it's worrying that at any moment, perhaps for something more essential than a few shows, part of a rental-based service might suddenly become unprofitable and disappear from people's hands overnight. Some forms of rent used to be the exception, but in many ways they're becoming the norm, and in increasingly critical parts of our lives. And that means that the amount of things we use every day that now falls under the private property label instead of personal keeps growing. And so, even after the point of sale, the decision power of the capitalist class has been extended a little further. And just to be clear, this isn't some kind of plot. There's no ill will guiding us down this path, or any global conspiracy. The logic of the profit motive, of capitalism, simply guides businesses down the path of least resistance. And in an economy where poverty can't help but grow, and new technology and lack of regulation allow stricter controls over ownership by capitalist enterprises, profiting off of rent is the logical path to take. The New F Word is a Nebula original series that explores the origins, characteristics, and resurgence of fascism around the world. Instead of taking the History Channel approach of focusing on the battles and leaders of World War II, The New F Word focuses on the ideology of fascism itself. Where did it come from? What is it responding to? And how can we identify fascism when it appears in the world today? Wherever you stand on the political spectrum, being able to speak knowledgeably about this dangerous ideology is critical, and the New F Word will give you the tools to do that.
True.
The first 4 episodes are available.
Cool.
New teaser for my Nebula original series, The New.
All right, this is all a show.
YouTube.
Cool. Good stuff. Russian Netflix got backups. Wait, what? That's not the femboism of the L word? No. I don't know if it's a play on words. Maybe it's a double on... What is it? Double entendre? I don't know if he's trying to make like a play on words. I don't know. All right, folks, we did it. And 7:30 on the dot-ish. Folks, I am hungry, okay? I gotta go eat. It was good to catch you. Thank you so much, Mayhem Hippie. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping by. And thank you for hanging in the stream. Folks, if you guys... It's been a minute since I ranted in chat. It's all good. Ranting is sometimes good and important to vent. If you guys enjoyed... I just finished eating. Well, now it's my turn, Maple. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. On your way out, you get 6 free emotes. Sorry. And if you want to support the channel, again, doesn't have to be monetary. You can go hit the subscribe button on the YouTube. Spread the word far and wide. We are here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Spread the word, bring a friend. And if you see any diamonds in chat, any diamonds in chat, make sure you check them out. Twitch.tv/Beccasphere. She does streams for climate news Tuesdays and Fridays. Also, twitch.tv/AlioShare. Make sure you go check them out. Subscribe to Beccasphere's YouTube channel. Go support her as well. I think I got everybody. Thank you, Michael Hassler. I appreciate it for hanging in there in the chat. Swaggy Solidarity with the sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Clumsy Juggler with the offline follow from yesterday. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the support and the subscriptions. It really does help us out. I appreciate that. Thanks for the shout out. No problem. All right, folks, we got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya! Appreciate it, folks. All right, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.